Thank you, Chris, for inviting me to this show. I think your monologue was very good. I've listened to what our brother has said. But you posed a question. First of all, I don't know if when you asked when Bia will leave. Now, I don't know whether anybody wants him to leave. I don't want him to leave at all. Let him leave and see Ambazonia become free, become independent. You know what suffered in the hands of this individual you call Paul Biya. Imagine that almost 10 years today, we have been fighting violence that was not introduced by us because since 1961 until 2017, Ambazonia, the people of Southern Cameroon never threw a stone on any roof, never threw a stone on anybody. They believed by mistake that they could religiously pursue their decolonization through legal and peaceful means. But we were dealing with savages, with people with the most backward and archaic minds who do not understand what you call dialogue, who don't understand what you call freedom. They decided to take up, to declare war against us. And so the war began. Our brother was talking, they don't like violence, but he should ask himself, who introduced the violence? Who introduced the violence? It is not us who introduced the violence. It is La République du Cameroon who introduced the violence. We were never, in fact, if he remembers, our motto was the force of argument and not the argument of force. And that is what we pursued until 2017 when these savages decided to declare war on us. So I don't know whether how long this fellow will remain, but I wish he remained there, and even they should dig up his body to come and to worship it. Yes, but whatever happens, he will die and go, and Ambazonia will be free. That is all I can say. Our brother has been talking of federation and this and that. I don't know. I wish they started by going to the records and finding the instruments that give La République du Cameroon jurisdiction over Ambazonia. If they had found it, I would be very pleased if he can publish those instruments so that the world can see. Otherwise, he's just deluding himself, believing that a neighbor can come and take over your own house, and you say to yourself, I just want to be a slave, come and take over my house and rule it for me, and you're talking of federation and so on. It is very painful indeed. I know that some people are such that there's no way you can reform them. They can never think straight. But this is a painful situation where your own people are colonized, they are suppressed, they cannot celebrate their independence, they cannot meet in their territory, they cannot form political parties to educate themselves, as you see in Quebec and other places. There is nothing they can do. They have absolutely no right. And somebody is there worshiping the people who are doing it. It is very sad. It is very, very sad. It is very, very sad because we have not stood up because we believe in violence. No, we are the most peaceful people you can find on earth. We are the most peaceful people you can find on earth. But the archaic regime we are dealing with, the savages we are dealing with, decided to declare war on us. And the war is on. Thankfully, the youth of Southern Cameroon will not put down their arms until we reach Boya. That is the position. They will not put down their arms until we reach Boya. So let us be clear about this. Let the federalists do what they like. Let them tell us how they intend to manage a situation where they cannot put any documents on the table showing that La République du Cameroon has jurisdiction over Ambazonia. I don't know. They should just cross over and live there. And come and join the people of Southern Cameroon and begin to say they are federalists and so on. No, no. That is out of place. That is out of place. That is out of place. Because this matter is very clear and strict, we want to begin from the foundation. That is to say, let the instruments which La République is claiming gives its jurisdiction over Ambazonia be placed on the table. We will know at that point that, okay, they have claimed that these instruments give them jurisdiction. At that point, we can discuss. But without that, there's no point to begin discussion with about federation. No, 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 there's no point. And then he is talking about peaceful change. And, this is not the first time they are stealing elections. I remember Frundi, they stole elections from Frundi. And Frundi wasted his time until finally he had died without succeeding in anything. So he thinks that Chiroma will come and be different. No, he will not be different. It will go exactly the same way the Frundi situation left. So let us be very practical with these issues. When you are talking of violence, we cannot overcome this regime. Let our brother look back in history. Human history has shown that all dictators are overthrown only by violence. Start from the United States. The United States got its independence only by violence. Go to Europe. France got its freedom only by violence. Come to Africa. Africa got its independence only by violence. So I don't know what kind of violence our brother is talking about. If he knows human history, he will go back and see that there is no other way to overthrow dictators and impostors than through violence. No, because you cannot negotiate with them. That's the reality. Can you negotiate with Bia? Let him tell us how he intends to negotiate with Bia. Or he thinks that if Bia is dead today, the next person will become more tolerable. I don't know. Let him tell us the instances in history where people have negotiated successfully with dictators to overthrow them. Let him give us examples. Because this is an absurdity, really.
All right. Let me get to, before I get back to Mike to have a response on that, let me get to Mr. Etoe, Namata Etoe, who happens to be the son of a former justice minister in those days, Benjamin Etoe. It's a popular name, most especially among Southern Cameroonians. Mr. Etoe, they have been the talk of the vice president coming from the Southern Cameroons. And that is tied into this federalism stuff that we hear, the narrative that we hear out there. Recently, I think a Francophone, I think she is a filmmaker, Calix Biyaba, if I got the name right, put out a list of people suggesting people that she thought should be prime minister, vice president. I also understand you put out a list. Can you remind us who you put out as potential vice presidents of Cameroon, Mr. Etoe?
Thank you so much, Comrade Chris, for this session of your show. Thank you very much, and I want to thank also the panel, Mr. Eric, from from home, and also thanking our chairman Michael Taki of the Federation Group, which I belong to. Yes, but first of all, I would like to comment on something which you put in your monologue before I respond to your concerns. Like when you say that the president-elect addresses Paul Biya as president, and you kind of think it's like not a good position. My perspective is that he just thinks, I just want to think that he's just addressing him because whether he's out of power or in power, he remains president. So that's just why he addresses me as president. So we should not put some implications into that, because that's just what he should call him. He can call him Mr. Biya, he can call him President Biya, but I don't find anything wrong with that because it's just a title.
I would expect anybody. I would expect anybody to call him President Biya or head of state, but not Issa Tchiroma, who is contesting the elections with him. Right? It doesn't make sense. I mean, anybody, you can, I can, but not somebody who says Biya stole his mandate.
Yes, you're very strong with that perspective. But the point I'm trying to make here is that he is President Biya. Whether he's in power or not in power, he remains President Biya forever. And even when he dies, he will be addressed by the history.
That makes sense. That's a point.
As President Biya. That's just a historical truth.
That's a point.
Yes, and sometimes we are caught up in our zones of thinking where in our zones of thinking, we have this thing of either we have to insult. For example, when I give perspectives, I'm a moderate. I listen to different voices, and I'm not against any voice because these are all voices of change. Whether it's the Southern Cameroonians talking about change, that's the voice. Whether it's CCFGA talking about change, that's a voice. Whether it's CSC or which other group, these are all voices. But that should not make us, not show so much disrespect for President Biya, because I would say that he remains President Biya, whether he's not president or he is there. So I'm very okay with the fact that the president-elect addressed him President Biya. But I also understand that it can
on whose side you are, Mr. Itoe? Are you on the side of Tchiroma or side of President Biya?
I've been listening to the voices, and I understand because when you ask that question, I listen to the voices, and I'm more of a moderate voice. It's been said that President Tchiroma, the president-elect, won.
When you say you are more of a moderate voice, what are you referring to? Is Biya between Paul Biya and Tchiroma? Is there any extremism among them?
Actually, the thing is, when I say I'm a moderate voice, for example, who's the president in charge of Cameroon now, as we speak? Is His Excellency Paul Biya. That's just a fact, and whether he got there by some game or political game or whatever, please try to remember that the person who's ruling the country that you live in is a felon. Donald Trump is on several counts of felony. He's not supposed to be there, but that's the person you call the president, and everyone answers to him. He's in charge, So we cannot be. When these realities are in front of us, we just can't discard them. That's my concern. So when you ask the question that, am I for Issa Tchiroma or I'm for President Paul Biya, I'm flowing with the political game. So I would say to you, I'm pro-Tchiroma, I'm pro-Biya.
Who did you vote?
I didn't vote anyway because I didn't have the opportunity.
You live in Norway anyway. All right.
I live in Oslo. I live in Oslo, Norway. So I did not vote. But then I just think that I understand, that Tchiroma has a plan in its agenda to give federation to the Nozo region, to the entire Cameroon rather, and people are attracted to that, especially those from the English-speaking side of Cameroon. So they're attracted to that. But then in the political game, it's not been really easy, especially like you say, he's out of the country, right? And father in Gambia, and his impact is not really felt so much. It's in the shadows. So, and it's not very easy to make all these assessments. But then he has served President Paul Biya, and so you have the other schools of thought thinking within the administration of Paul Biya that he ought to have just stayed with what he's been serving over a long time. And I remember, Comrade Chris, you had heated sessions with Issa Tchiroma, who was so against the Southern Cameroon, the issue, and he was also so against even when.
Well, if you put him and Biya together, it was a lesser evil. I mean, you know that. So when you have two evils, you pick the lesser evil. That was exactly what Tchiroma was.
I wouldn't really say he's a lesser evil because he's, when you serve a regime and you execute for the regime, you are part of that evil of that regime, no matter whether you switch.
Yeah, that is true. But when you have only the two options, what do you do?
Yeah, if the options are there that Paul Biya is going away and the person who has to come in is Tchiroma, that's fine.
Paul Biya is going away, somebody is coming in, somebody that he will appoint that neither you nor me has an idea, and the person is not going to be voted by anybody.
Yes, but we don't know. You see, that we are now in a political
that. The Constitution says appoint a vice president and the vice president takes over from you.
Correct, but we are in a political stalemate, and like you noted that, it's not coming. It's not the reshufflement is not coming. The position of vice president is not coming, That's the political stalemate we are in. And there are all these speculations. They have to make a judgment, especially when it comes to who becomes the vice president. The names are out there, close in there, and they have to make an evaluation who. And I don't want to think that President-elect's name is not also there. I don't want to think so. I think his name is also there. They talk about him. I want to think so.
Oh, so that's a revelation you are giving us. Issa Tchiroma's name is where? In the short list for vice president or what?
It should be there, because when we're talking of if Issa Tchiroma becomes vice president, then potentially he can be president. And then, potentially. But what I'm saying here is this.
Do you think Tchiroma will accept being vice president?
I think that would be a smarter political move for him to accept, especially if his security is guaranteed. Because I don't see how he can pull it on from where he is without having to collaborate with the person who's there now, and soon hopefully will be outgoing.
If he becomes a vice president, and I get the point, if he becomes a vice president after Biya's vice president who takes over, he decides to bring in Tchiroma just to end the October 12th contest and makes him vice president. Of what use does Tchiroma become to the country when he cannot effect any change? In fact, he will stay there for the next 7 or 6 years, and when the term is over, they go for elections, he will be kicked out. And he would have been too old, by the way, at that moment. So, what sense does it make for him to take the position of vice president?
I don't agree with that perspective. I don't agree with that perspective of yours. He comes in, if he's offered, which I think, or I would appeal to him to accept it, and ask for security guarantees. And if he's offered that, then let him come back and occupy that position. Because the reality is that, which you and I will know, and most Cameroonians know, is that the reason why they've put the position of vice president is a transition into, President Biya's, passing, going away. So I just think that he's the only smart option to accept that. Otherwise, he will remain in that opposition, just like Kamtois or whoever was, and will not be active politically. Because the political game is in Cameroon. It's not in Gambia. It's not anywhere else. It's in Cameroon.
Well, all right. Let me. Go on. Finish your thought.
That's where the battlefield is. Then let me come back to this other perspective. Then when you said about the president, the vice president, to come back to your question, I want to think that there are other candidates. When I mentioned Issa Tchiroma, it's just like floating the name there, because I think they also talk about him. I think so. They talk about other potential people who can be there. But then you see, it's not easy to find the right one to be there, because there are different things to consider, especially if, President Paul Biya is having to leave power. He should trust who's the vice president, and he should be sure about his immunity, his security after he leaves power, and the immunity for his family. And that's something, if you were in President Paul Biya's situation, you are going to also think in that way, because all of us want some kind of immunity when we leave power. So I think that it's all possible. They floated the name of the president's son. That's on the table, is being considered. The English-speaking region, we have also maintained that it is time for an Anglophone to occupy that position, which is the brightest, I think. But then the political game is complex than we can imagine.
I don't understand what is bright in the making an Anglophone, in your terminology, becoming the vice president of La République du Cameroun.
Yeah, it's bright because you cannot keep staying in rebellion or in a state of violence for too long, like Jonas Savimbi, who stayed UNITA rebelled for too long and finally got to nowhere. The thing is, you've got to make yourself active, and that is what we are doing. That is what you are also doing, the activism, making ourselves active and make sure that there is a process that goes on in Cameroon, So for me, I think that should we have an English-speaking Cameroonian coming there as vice president, that's a pathway to becoming president.
And what does becoming president mean?
To become president means
I have made this point again and again that we've had prime ministers upon prime ministers Anglophone, and we still have one at the moment. So what does making an Anglophone a vice president even mean or change?
It will be different because the political
okay, explain to us.
Executive side. Yes, on the executive side, as the politics is, where you have the prime minister, he's not so much like the second in command or the third in command. It's complex. He's not having those like total powers. That's just how the system is. But now with this new reform of the vice presidency, please, you should try to recognize the fact that should this thing be given to an English-speaking Cameroonian, that's very strategic because that's a vice president, which means if His Excellency Paul Biya is no more there, he becomes president, and a president cannot be compared to this current prime minister who has very limited powers.
Let me ask you, what happens if Biya appoints his vice president, maybe Ngongo or Frank Biya, and in your calculations, Frank Biya turn around and appoint, let's say, Dion Ngute, or let's say, any of those so-called elite into the position of vice president. Do you think he leaves to become president of Cameroon?
Please, the last part of the question, do I think who leaves to become president of Cameroon?
If Biya, which we know is happening for sure, he is not appointing an Anglophone to be his vice president. Forget about that. It is not happening. But look at this other scenario. If Biya should appoint Ngongo or Frank Biya or any of the elite from his clan to become vice president and to assuage the wrath of some of you from Anglophone, they appoint an Anglophone, maybe Dion Ngute, maybe Paul Tassong, maybe, you know all those bootlickers called Anglophones in Yaoundé. They appoint any of them as vice president. You think that person will live to become the president of Cameroon?
Well, Comrade Chris, this is just a scenario we are putting out there.
I know, but
kind of speculative scenario, which I don't think is going to play out in this way, because the thing is, the vice president is going to be somebody younger, I think.
The vice president is going to be what?
It's going to be someone younger, I think so. However,
does that mean anything?
Definitely, it has. When it's someone who's young, because when you're talking of these other names who are in that political game, there, I just think that this position of vice president, we don't know. We are just speculating.
Right.
We don't know, and you see, there's a stalemate. Why is there that stalemate? Because it is difficult to come up with a total assessment of how to do it. It's difficult. So there's a political stalemate in Yaoundé.
All right, let me get back to Mike to kind of make a response to what Dennis and you have said.
Yes, Chris. Thank you for having me back. I will just start straight with. Let me go to Dennis. Now, Dennis mentioned something about war brought onto us, not us initiating war. I think this is just, I would say, a very tactical statement to make. It's not every war that you engage in. It's not every war that you engage in. Especially, there are certain wars that you have to rethink and perhaps choose a different date for a fight. And this is when you say the Biya regime declared war on us. I think some of us were there. The statement that Biya made was not necessarily the way we responded to it. And even if we had to respond, we should not always be tempted to pick up a bait from somebody else's toolbox. Let us have our own toolbox where we make our plan and stick by them regardless of what, because we know the end game. Now, when the consortium was up to the task of handling these guys, it would have been a matter of, I know they banned the consortium, it would have been a matter of morphing from one stage to the other, but sticking onto the plan, looking at what we want, regardless of any temptation that comes. Because this is how some of these, I would say, wars are fought. There are wars of ideology, and then there are also wars of like gun using ammunitions. Had we stayed the way the consortium handled this, even though it happened that they banned the consortium, it would have just been a matter of people moving from one stage to the other. Because if you notice right now, there is no way you can fight a war and then end up living in a war. You only end up looking for a way to seek peace. And that is what we are doing now. After the loss of lives we've lost, plus not only lives, but livelihoods. So even if we are agitating, yes, we have a proper, well-legitimate, documented reason for standing out there and facing the regime and saying, enough is enough with this attempted assimilation, marginalization, and all whatnot. But there is no way we would
Mike, it seems you are suggesting that we jumped up in 2016, 17 and picked up arms against La République du Cameroun.
No, that's not what I'm saying here.
Where would you keep 2000 and 1993, 1994, all the way up to 2016? Because you are saying as if we just jump into this without trying in other ways.
Chris, I am not saying that we jumped into fighting. I am just saying we reacted. We should not be reactionary. This is, even at the moment as we speak, there are a lot of things that are going on. I'm sure you know there is talks about AAC3. We are so fragmented in such a way that we wait until something happens, we start reacting. As a people, we are supposed to have our own plan, regardless of what is going on. We stick by this plan, respect the plan, and of course the plan is not going to be anything violent because we are not a violent people. The North and Southwest region, the former Southern Cameroonians, have never been the people that you can even say you go to their streets and start looking for who is holding even a razor blade up to 2017. So why should we, instead of picking by who we are and using methods that we are good at to fight somebody who lives through violence? Because this is what the La République are. They are people, they've lived for the past years, even right up to the 2000s. Most voices from the North and Southwest regions have always been silenced through violence. We know that. So why was that a special moment for us? Why was it special that we have to take up arms with a violent regime? Anyway, the point I'm making is this. Even right up to now we are talking, we are still divided, and arms will not solve our problem. The arms will not solve our problem. Let us accept that and strategically look
we
another
all
way.
accept that, but the question we have for you is, what is the alternative?
The alternative, at the moment, we are pursuing the route that the ballot box created for us.
Which ballot box? Which ballot box? A ballot box when somebody has been in power for 43 years. 43 years, one person, and you are still talking of a ballot box in 2026 for someone who has been in power for 43 years?
Chris,
he should be overthrown. You should be talking about overthrowing him, if possible, by the military, if the civilians cannot do it.
Yes, this is again, like I said, Cameroon has a lot of problems, up and down, and we don't want to descend into any chaos. And we think we are law-abiding people. We move
But it's already
law.
in chaos.
It's absolute. Yes, it's in the chaos that there is right now. It's just, I would say, if something else had to be done to add it, it will be worse than what we are. So what I'm saying is that there is a path that was created after all this time, and that path was which came up as a result of the people exercising their civil right, voting. For CCFGA worked very hard for this. And again, I go back to what I told you. I said, we are always waiting for things to happen. We as Cameroonians, we don't want to be the pathfinders. We want to just jump onto the path. CCFGA chose to be a pathfinder. We worked very meticulously to make sure that what happened on 12/10/2025 happened. Imagine if every single Cameroonian were doing the same thing. And like I gave you the statistics, 1 to 3% can put down that country. So that is my response to my brother, Dennis. Violence was brought to us, but I don't think we wouldn't have had better options than responding to it. If I come back to the question about the vice presidency and what my brother here, Namata, just said, from where some of us stand, I think we are merely piling up a lot of irregularities on the ones that we already have. The position of vice president should not even have been a matter of discussion right now. Had we followed first things come first, because what Cameroonians are doing, we are just merely waiting for, okay, what are they going to do next? What are they going to do next? What are they going to do next? How can we continue to live our lives as if somebody has a remote control on us? We are Cameroonians. We have equal right in that country like everybody else. Mr. Biya lost elections. He shouldn't be talking about vice presidency in the first place. Vice president to be appointed in a country that is so fragmented, in a country that is gone through a lot for 40 years. This is like, it's like adding an old wine, new wine onto an old wine. We have a situation where even the constitution that we have right now is so problematic, which is why for 40 years and counting, the country is facing the same thing. Now, when people went to the poll to vote, they chose someone. Cameroonians, again, some would say, oh, because Tchiroma is not in Cameroon. But Tchiroma did not vote for himself. People voted for him. We keep allowing the regime to control the way we behave. They sat in power instead of the conversation to be focused on, come on, get off. We don't want you anymore. Carry your own reforms that you have, because they don't even have any reforms. This is the thing. Instead, what do? We are blaming the wrong person. We appointed this guy. We chose this guy. They want to kill him. He left the country. Now the people who wanted to kill him also want to completely annihilate the country by introducing reforms that will not make any change. Well, how do you make a reform in the same system? They are even calling, some Anglophones are even happy about it. If you are in that, because as it is right now, it is CPDM, Chris. It is CPDM versus Cameroonians. This is how they play the game. CPDM are not a political party that is, I would say, open to reforms. If they were, they would have picked up this idea of federalism and run with it. But they are not open to reform. They just want to stick by their own method of, I would say, decentralized unity state. And this is the 21st century we are talking about.
So to your point, if Biya hands over and leave, and the next person takes over, whoever that person is, and say, you know what, is the same party, the same CPDM. What is going to convince that person to say, let's do federalism?
That is where we stand. We understand that they will never ever. Chris, we are talking here when the issues in the North and Southwest region broke. There are people before me who tabled the idea of federalism, who tabled some sort of arrangements to fix not only the North and Southwest regions, but the whole country. The regime, Chris, this is a CPDM arrangement. They don't want anything from anywhere or from anyone. They are not interested in fixing Cameroon. Cameroonians should go and sit down and reflect. What have we done wrong to these people? It's not about Cameroonians. It's about themselves, CPDM people.